As car enthusiasts, we all know and appreciate the Chevrolet Corvette's iconic status as a legendary car. Since its inception in 1953, there have been 8 generations of America's sports car, but our personal favorites are still the C1s, made from 1953 to the end of the 1962 model year. Our feature car this week was built right in the middle of the time they were available. Like all our stories, this car has an interesting set of circumstances and history that were only revealed after owner Brad Lano started the resurrection of this true barn find. You'll hear how Brad discovered the rarity of how this car started life when it left that Wisconsin dealer's lot over 65 years ago. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoy this car's story. Now, let's go for a ride.
My name is Brad Lano, and we're going to talk about a 1958 big break Corvette. I acquired this car over a barbecue that I was having with a bunch of friends. About 7 years ago, we were in our backyard here in Lake Havasu. When we have a wiener roast, it's just a couple pieces of wood that you light on fire and you put it in your driveway, and then you put wieners over it. So it's pretty casual. And we were having a conversation between 2 guys, a gentleman that lived back in Minnesota and a friend of his that lives out here, that he had this 1958 Corvette. He acquired it from the 3rd owner. He would be, in fact, the 3rd owner. And what he had was a 1958 Corvette that didn't run. The original owner of the car bought it. There was a farmer from Somerset, Wisconsin. He was in his prime, let's just say. In 1958, he buys this car. He wanted to drag race it and blows the motor up in 1962. Goes to this local dealer in Somerset, Wisconsin, and buys this brand new 1963 327, 340 horsepower solid lifted engine. He puts that in the car, continues to drag race it. Couple years goes by, he's now lost the thrill of the car, and his neighbor, who lusted after it for years, wants to buy it. Another local farmer. He buys the car, puts it in the garage, doesn't really do too much with it, except just drives it for fun, has it for 40-some years. And of course, what happens to those cars is they end up in a barn, and they get sit in a corner, and it gets lost. He then passes away. And his wife is a friend of my friend, which is a hobby farmer right next door. He then, in fact, goes over and says, and the woman says, you know, my husband loved this car. But I tell you what, I will give you this car if you get it running so I can take his ashes from the funeral home, thank you, to the cemetery. So he thought, great idea. His brother was a body man from Owatonna, Minnesota. He thought, this is a good deal. I'm going to get a free Corvette out of it. And they literally scurried this thing together within 10 days to make it look presentable that it could drive. And he did they did exactly what she wanted. They were able to take it back. They took a bunch of pictures of it. And then he puts it back in his garage. He acquired this car in 2004. And 2012, I'm at the wiener roast. We're talking Corvettes. He, at that time, realizes that he needs to make an acquisition and really needs to sell this car. He needed to generate some cash. So I thought a 58 Corvette would be a good resto mod. That'd be a really good starter. I don't care if it was an old beat-up Corvette. It's still a 58 Corvette. Really, that's the body style I wanted. And it was my quest then to go out and see him. And there's parts everywhere. This car doesn't start. It's just sitting in the corner. But everything looked there. And the mice owned it. They owned from through the doors to the rear. They were everywhere. And I thought, fine, it is what it is. That's what I'm buying. We load it up on a trailer. We haul it down here. And when I'm telling you, there was mice that scurried out of this car when I got to Havasu. So when we open it up and start opening the panels of the doors, I'm going, holy, this is no BS. These guys have been exported, you know. And it was bad. It was bad. And then I really didn't know what to do with it. So, and I'm not a real big Corvette guy, but I brought it up on my lift, and he tried to, okay, what pig in a poke? What do I got up here? And the first thing I did is reached out to one of my neighbors who was an NCRS judge. And he stopped by to take a look at the car. And as he was doing his due diligence, we're finding out that everything's intact. The drum brakes, except for the welded-on side pipes, it was all intact. Then to find out that it's a true big brake car. So then he's going over the big brake pieces of it, and was it a real fuel-injected car? And yes, it was a real fuel-injected car. Well, after about an hour of him looking at this, now pretty soon, we're in Lake Havasu. He's got his phone to his ear, and now he's calling friends that are all NCRS judges or involved with C1 Corvettes, because he owned a company called Gold Top Restoration, which built award-winning C1 Corvettes. And I believe today he built 27 C1s. So I would say he's a true authority on C1 Corvettes. And he came over to me, and my intent was to build a resto mod. He then turned around and said, well, no, you got to make this all, this is so rare. It was just, and normally most of the parts to the airboxes are gone. The induction cowling that goes underneath the front fenders, the airboxes that run through the sides are typically all rusted, worn, shot. It was purely just a race car, so it survived, and all the ancillary parts on it all survived. So we were really thrilled as we started this venture to tear this car apart, to realize that it was a big break. So then I just parked it in the garage again. I had too many projects going on, too much going on. I don't have time for this Corvette. Well, did we know that COVID started? When the world started to come to, when we really didn't know what was going on with COVID, everybody was, embracing for the worst, hoping for the best. I'm in my garage, and my painter came by, and he said, you need to probably start working on this Corvette. I'm going, I got other things to do. I just don't have time for this thing. So he came in with a 1-gallon pail of stripper, aircraft paint stripper. And as we're talking in the garage, just BSing, not thinking about it, he's on the backside, which I can't see, on the backside of this Corvette, stripping the quarter panel. And he stripped a really nice big 2-foot by 2-foot square chunk out of the back of the car, and he cleaned up his brushes and his rags and put them all in a bucket. And he said, "There you go. I just started for you." So that really started the quest. So from there, stripped the body out. I cataloged every single part, nut and bolt, stripped it completely down. I spent 16 months, probably a couple thousand hours, and I built that whole car myself. Everything except powder coating the frame. And I didn't do any of the chroming. That Sherms did all the chrome plating. But everything else I did. Luckily, I had a wealth of knowledge from local guys here in town that were just great. They were just, these guys were more than willing to donate their time to come in and say, nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. Oh, this got to be right. Hey, you got to have these 5-volt. There was things I'm going, I had no clue, Once I started the build, I realized that I had the wrong engine in it. So it was great. So once I've got the car finished, I just now had the engine finished. But now at least I've got it all built, all documented, all original. Transmission, everything, bell housing, the whole works. It's all there, all date coded correct. I just have to put it now into the car. So that's the only thing I haven't done yet. But that'll be my next quest. But it was built in April of 1958. It is an early build, big brake car. The breathing screens on the back of the drum brakes are a very small hash mark, a small print. So that's, since there was one of 144 of those ever made, that's probably one of the first maybe 30 or 40. But it's certainly one of 144 and well documented. Silver blue, which is a factory silver blue color, first year metallic for a Corvette, and the interior is coral red. The original car, when I opened up the trunk, in wax marker, they printed the color of the car on the back of the trunk. And I pressure washed it, I found it, and it was charcoal, C-H-A-R. It was in a green wax marker. So it's charcoal with a red interior. I looked at the charcoal and I really struggled with that color. It didn't really pop for me. And so I did a bunch of spray outs. So I took liberties and I decided to paint it silver blue, which is still a factory color. Every year of a 58, all the wheels were silver. That color was silver. That's what the color of the wheels are today. They do match the special parachute seat belts. And those are all original 58, new old production seat belts. They were originally came with a 5.5-inch rim, but those hubcaps are the original hubcaps. The spears in the trunk, they were redone by Sherms, but they were the original, chrome spears that were on the trunk. And also the fake louvered front hood. That kind of sets a 58 off. So it was the journey of understanding what the car was that really just set me off. When I started realizing what the car was, what they did, what Zorro Dontov did in 58 to make this car a race car, I just got sucked in. I just drank the Kool-Aid. It was all over.
How cool would it be to stumble onto a car as rare as this? It was literally found in a barn, and it turns out to be an original big break Fuelie car. This story should inspire all of us to keep hunting for cars. You never know what's out there until you start following up on leads, no matter how vague and unsubstantiated they may seem. Join us again next time when we bring you another great story. Until then, please remember, be careful out there.